got two women working together within the energy of this beautiful pink octahedron energy. And so I feel as though there's going to be a message coming through from one or both of them linked into the fact that women need to be pulling together during these times and working together. But I think I'm going to bring it in and let them speak, okay? So the way these videos are working is that every single member of the Heart Squad, as I'm calling them, a series of souls that are coming back to help us and support us and guide us, is bringing through, for want of a better word, a friend or somebody that they respected. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that they physically met, can be, not always. And it was their idea basically to bring somebody through. So Princess Diana, we'll ask her why, but she is wanting to bring through Audrey Hepburn. But firstly, we're going to be just linking into the energy of Diana anyway and seeing what Princess Diana would like to say, and then she will introduce Audrey to us later, okay? So as we always do with this, I'm going to build the rainbow bridge and I'm just going to make a connection with Diana for all of us now, okay? So putting your roots down into Mother Earth, calling in the energy of Archangel Metatron. This is the rainbow bridge spray that I'm using, just helps me to connect. In fact, it looks particularly luminescent, doesn't it, in this sunlight? Look at that. That really does look almost like it's not a pot of gold, but it certainly looks like a pot of, I don't know, quartz light or something. Look at the way the sun is shining on that. How beautiful is that? Really gorgeous, luminescent. So this bridge feels as though it's luminescent. It feels like it's just lit up with this most beautiful white light, okay? And it feels very pure, very high vibration. And what Archangel Metatron is doing is just now building this bridge, linking both Earth and the other realm, the other dimension, whether you call that heaven, whether you call that something else, where you believe that spirit goes to when they pass over. So we've got like this beautiful pearly rainbow bridge. I'd like us to imagine that we're just walking to the brow of it, just to the very top of it, with Archangel Metatron. So it's you, me, and Archangel Metatron. And there is a bench that's been laid out for us to sit on today. And it is beautiful pearly white bench. So we just sit, and I'm observing more than anything that I'm sitting on this bench, and it's as though I've got my hands in my lap, sort of in that type of gesture, just sitting with my hands in my lap, waiting with a sense of deep peace, actually, more than anything else, for Diana to come to us today. Okay, so it's the 8th energy today. And number 8, of course, is linked into the sign of infinity, and it's the sign of, it's like a never-ending space, dimension, and time. So it feels as though Diana's just walking across this bridge and bringing through that energy of 8 as well, the power of 8. Okay, so as I can see her coming through, she's now just meeting us on the brow of the bridge, and there is a bench that's been set out for her as well. It's almost like these two benches facing each other. So she sits on the bench. She's dressed very casually. She's got a pair of soft denim jeans on, a white blouse, open at the neck. Minimal jewellery. She's not dressed up. She's got a soft pair of loafer shoes on her feet, and she is appearing to me, the way she's showing me herself is around the age where Harry and William, her two sons, were probably, I don't know, about the ages of 7, 9, maybe a little bit younger than that. There's quite a famous photograph of her where she's got both of her boys and they're sort of around her neck area. You know how children sort of cling onto their mum's neck sometimes. It's like a playful pose. I don't know whether it was a photograph that was taken by a particularly famous photographer. She's saying to me she would quite like to have brought a photographer through, but she wasn't sure who to bring with her today. But she says she's very happy with her decision to bring Audrey through in a moment. But for now, Diana, let's just be in your energy for a moment. So just allow those of us that are watching this now, just allow your heart to open. And I am seeing the crystal selenite, which I have on my desk. And I'm seeing this beautiful selenite heart. And just she's asking for us to open up our hearts with the vibration of pure white light and selenite. Okay? All right. So let's see what she'd like to say today. So she does feel as though she'd like to talk about the role of women in society and the way that women don't always support each other. Now I think, Diana, you might have mentioned this in a previous video as well, but if you have, that's fine, because sometimes a similar message will come through because it hasn't been fully heard last time. So she's bringing back, I feel, a message linked into the energy of this card, okay? The fact that women need to be working together more, sisterhood basically. And she's saying that's why I've chosen to bring Audrey back, because I wanted to bring another woman back. I wanted to celebrate women who are able to achieve great things and who make a difference in the world. But she's saying women need to support other women. And she's saying, show them the card, Amanda. So on this card, can you see that not only do we have two women in this heart energy, but also they're carrying they're carrying a basket. I'm not sure what it's supposed to have in it, but they're carrying this basket. But each of them they've got one hand either side of the basket. So it's as though the basket, she's saying, represents workload. And that could mean anything. It could mean a physical job. It could mean a task, a project, an initiative that you wish to get off the ground. It could also be family responsibility, which is work in itself, she says. But it's about women pulling together to help each other, not just within family groups, mothers, daughters, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, but also in terms of friends and women helping each other. And she's saying this is one thing that's holding back the full extent of the opening of the heart on the planet at the moment, because people talk about the arrival of the divine feminine and the age of the empowerment of women. But she's saying it's been quite a lonely road for many women, particularly those who've had to forge a new path in any area of life. It's as though, looking back over the last few decades, she says, it's as though we felt very alone. And she said, certainly there were times in my life when I felt very alone as a woman, although I did have friendships and I did have those that supported me. And she's drawing me particularly to her sisters. I believe she had two sisters. I don't know their names, but I'm seeing them in my mind's eye. She's showing me her sisters. But equally, the thing about showing me the sisters, it's also the fact that you don't have to be blood to be somebody's sister. So she's talking about sisterhood in the widest sense of the word. Women helping each other is really needed at this time, because she's saying we know the power of the female. We know the power that women have to be able to help change and mould this new world. And she's saying the power of that combined is a very strong thing. And she's saying this is one of the reasons why there seems to be at the moment this oppression that is coming through in some quarters of society to deny the voice of the female or try to deride the voice of the female in some way. So let's just go into what else she wants to say here. There's a nod to the Me Too movement with her. Something she wants to say about the Me Too movement. She's saying that it's along the lines, what she's trying to say is something along the lines of that she supports the initiative, and that she supports women coming forward with stories that need to be told. But she's concerned that the energy around it seems to have become a little bit tainted in some way, not necessarily by the women themselves, but by the way that the campaign, for want of a better word, is being presented or portrayed in the media, as though it's become a sort of fashionable thing. It's as though it's not being looked at a deep enough level. It's as though it's become more about a banner than about the very deep work and deep recognition that needs to happen in terms of women coming forward who may have been abused, for example, assaulted, mistreated, and it's as though their voice is being squashed by the old patriarchal energy, she's saying. So it's like she's giving encouragement that women need to support other women when they come forward with these stories of abuse or assault or having been kept under in some way. So an abuse of women by the masculine. And she's saying it's as though other women are standing silently by and not always giving their support to the whistleblowers, for want of a better word, that come forward to shine the light on corruption and darkness in many different sectors of society. She's showing me Hollywood in particular. There's also a nod to politics, but really she's saying it's every single corner of life where injustice has happened against women, and it's as though she's behind this campaign. She's wanting to help, but she's also very aware that somehow it's being manipulated or misrepresented in sections of the media. But really, more than anything, it's a nod to the fact that when you see another woman who's brave enough to speak out, what she's saying is really important other women get behind her. Otherwise, they feel as though they are rising up from this wall of silence where they haven't been able to speak, and then they're met with another wall of silence. So it's as though they're brave enough to speak, but then they're not supported by their fellow sisters who really should be standing by their side. Okay? So she's very strong on that today. Very strong on that today. Let's see what else. Okay. So Diana, 1010. So she's showing me she's showing me two lions, which is sort of like a nod back to 8-8, which is the Lionsgate energy. So she's saying that there seems to be an energetic link to what was started around 8-8 with the 10-10 energy, and of course she's coming in on the 8th. So she's taking me back to the August Lionsgate energy for some reason. What do you want to say about that? Lionsgate opened the doors in a very big, profound way to revelations and disclosures and the unravelling of that which has been unseen in your world. And she's saying every month from now on, it's as though it's going to get bigger and bigger and wider in terms of what's being revealed, what is being exposed. So she's showing me 8-8, 9-9, 10-10, 11-11, 12-12, 1-1, 2-2. She's going all the way through. It's as though these are powerful portals every single month. And it's as though she's showing me a series of gateways. And it's as though the gateway gets bigger every single month as we keep carrying through into 2020 and beyond. She's saying 2020 is one of the biggest gateways that you have had on this planet for eons, okay? And she's saying there will be massive help that comes in to steer as many people through the largest and highest gateway that they can manage, to bring in the energy of New Earth. Okay. So she's saying that there's going to be an awful lot of changes that come through in our world during 2020. She's saying that the end portion of this year, 2019, when I make this video, is just almost as though she's showing me a kettle that is brewing, not brewing, a kettle that is coming up to boil. It's a similar message to what Metatron gave me, I think a video ago. So she's using the same analogy of a kettle now that's coming up to boil. And so there is a lot that is going to be revealed over the coming months, she is saying. And she always had a sense of humour, Diana. So there's this aspect of sort of like hang on to your hat type energy, you know. It's like brace yourselves for the changes that are coming. I'm now seeing it's as though we're hanging on to like a doorpost or something, and it's as though the winds of change are coming into the world. And I'm seeing it's as though we're hanging on to the post, hanging on to the doorpost, whilst the winds of change come in. And it's like I can see like people with long hair. It's like the wind is like sweeping all their hair backwards. So she's saying don't be frightened of the ferocity of the winds of change that are going to be sweeping in soon. It's going to be, she's showing me like a whirlwind energy, and she's saying it's going to touch most nations on earth. It isn't just about one nation. And she says it's all been divinely planned and orchestrated, and minimal damage will be done, but there needs to be this clearing away of energies for the arrival of 2020. So she's saying we're gearing up to that now. She's showing me a gear stick in a car, and it's as though we're going from first gear to second gear to third gear, and we're going to be going all the way up to beyond fifth gear, where you put it into cruise control. And she's saying ultimately, as a species, we need to get to almost like a cruise control type energy, which is whereby we are effectively trusting the divine, trusting our own higher self, trusting the vehicle, i.e. the body that we're in, to walk the path of truth and to bring in the awakening for this planet. Okay, let's just see if there's anything else that wants to come through. I'm holding this, by the way, in case you're wondering what I'm holding. This is my lion. Okay, it's rose quartz, and just felt like I wanted to pick it up when she was talking about the Lion's Gate energy. And I've always felt with Diana, and I might have said this in one of the previous channelings with her, but she's got this very lioness-like energy to her in terms of protecting her cubs, okay, which isn't just William and Harry. It's also linked into what she's talking about in terms of cubs. Is almost like the disadvantaged people that need protection. It's like they come under her umbrella of care. Okay, let's just see if we're going to get anything else from her. Just going to change the camera position one moment. So I've drawn another card from the deck, and I paused my camera because the dog was barking and there's a bit of noise going on. So during that time, I just pulled another card, and it's quite interesting because this one has got it's the Four of Pentacles. So we've got the Three of Pentacles and the Four of Pentacles. Can you see here? This shows a single woman who's trying to sort of hang on to all of her possessions and her jewels. I'm also wanting to say her beauty. Okay, it's very much almost like an energy of trying to hoard it, okay, all for herself. But notice the colours of these two cards. In this one, where the women are pulling together, we've got the energy of pink, which is the colour of love and warmth. And here, where the woman is trying to just sort of keep it all for herself, do it very much solo, without support, without companionship, without also the energy of giving as well as receiving, you know, not just hoarding, but then giving. Can you see that the heart turns to almost like a blue shade? It feels colder. It feels much warmer to be in this energy than in this energy. So I thought that was quite interesting. So there's also a nod here from Diana with regards to this card, that you can't take your jewels with you. Okay, I mean, in her sense it was actually literal. Okay, and it's quite interesting for her, because she's saying she sees now some of the jewels that she wore when she was alive, and of course they are now on her daughters-in-law, for example. She's just saying that's the way it should be. Things get passed down, but most people don't have diamonds, rubies, sapphires that Diana had. So take jewels to represent anything that basically you're hanging on to. You can't hang on to anything. You can't take any of this with you when you pass over. None of it is actually that important, she's saying. It's not important. What's important is basically what is within your heart, okay? What is within your heart is actually the measure of who you are as a person, not the rubies that you wear around your neck or the diamonds that you have on top of your head in a crown. And she says, yes, I know it's rich coming from me because I wore those diamonds and I wore those rubies. But let me tell you, now where I am, they are as irrelevant. They are irrelevant. Okay, it's all about what is within the heart. It's about what your frequency is. It's about how you love, how you give, how you receive. And she says that can all be practiced on earth and needs to be practiced more. Okay, now she's also taking me now to a different energy, which is linked into her sons and their wives. And last night in the UK, there was the launch, or I didn't see it myself. I think it was an advert, a commercial that was on, and it was to do with helping to raise awareness of mental health issues. And I believe that the voices, certainly of Harry and William, are within the advert. So they've given their authority to it, basically. I think Kate and Meghan are also linked to it as well. So it's almost as though the four of them are coming back together, despite any differences they may have, to help raise awareness of mental health. So this is going to tie probably in. It's almost like Diana's introducing the energy because she's a great introducer of energies. She was the one that introduced this whole Heart Squad idea, because we've got Robin Williams coming in soon in another video in this 1010 series. So it's like a nod to the raising awareness of mental health. So would you like to say anything else on that, Diana? She's saying, I just see the wound. She's saying, I see the really deep wound in society that is caused by mental health, but equally the secrecy around mental health and around the denial of mental health issues in society. And she's saying it's a very difficult one. I myself battled mental health issues in my life, with a nod to the bulimia, for example, that she suffered, which had a mental health aspect to it. She's also talking about the post-natal depression that she suffered after the birth of certainly one or both of her sons. And she's saying, I certainly know or knew what the cloud of depression felt like when it descended. And it's really interesting because the clouds just come over the sun as I said that. And she said it literally does feel like that. It feels as though the light has gone out in your life when depression descends and you can't see the light. But yet very much what's just happened within your room, Amanda, with the sun and the cloud, you know ultimately that the sun is still behind that cloud and any moment it will come back out. But when the cloud is over you, you feel as though the sun never is going to come back out, and you actually start to doubt the presence of the sun itself. The sun representing yourself well and happy and joyful and radiant. And she's saying for some, I see and I witness and I know, because she feels it so deeply, that the cloud feels so thick and so heavy many days over many people. And she's saying if you could only just think about that analogy of the cloud and the sun, which is that the sun may be hidden, you may not be able to see it, but it is always there. The potential is always there to be able to come back to full health, to full vibrancy, to full sunlight. So please trust that however you feel, and I feel as though I'm talking to specific people, she says in this video, that light can come back to your inner world, to your mind, to your heart that might feel shattered, to your sacral that may be wounded, that light can come in and restore and heal and bring back harmony and balance. But when you are going through it, it's as though you don't believe that. And again, she's saying this is also where sisterhood, brotherhood, compassion from your fellow man is so important. She's saying one aspect of depression which is not widely appreciated is how well many people cover it up, how well people can seem who are actually very deeply depressed, and how happy they can appear on the surface, and how beautiful they may look, or how well dressed they may look, but yet underneath there is this underlying fog and cloud and gloom. So she's saying we really need to start looking out for each other more and digging a little bit deeper. So when you actually ask somebody how they are, you actually are interested in the reply. It's almost, she's saying, it's almost like otherwise don't ask the question. She's saying because sometimes by not wanting to really hear the answer and allowing the person that is unwell or depressed to just come up with the standard response, which is a very UK response as well here, which is I'm fine. She's saying it reinforces the descent into a gloomier mood, because the person who says that they're fine knows ultimately that they're not just lying to the person that has asked them, they're actually lying to themselves. So she's very proud of the initiative that the four are doing with regards to mental health. And okay, she's also giving a nod to the fact that the four, and by the four I'm talking William, Harry, Meghan and Catherine, she's saying of the four, certainly two of them have experienced issues linked into mental health. So and some is ongoing. So she says the public can be very cruel in terms of how they react to situations and things that are said and things that are done without necessarily understanding the wounding that lies behind the actions and the things that are said and done. So and then it's like she's always like that. She's almost like, okay, and I'm not going to say any more on that. So it's almost like a nod to the fact that she knows that in her lifetime she experienced issues with mental health, and she's seeing that some, I'm not going to name the ones that I'm seeing, of the four, there are at least two at the moment who have moods that are very up and down, and she's saying maybe a little bit of compassion and kindness wouldn't go amiss, okay? Rather than people leaping on every action or everything that is said and analysing it in terms of what's wrong, well, maybe actually there is something wrong at a deeper level in terms of emotions and mood and what's going on in the mind. So we need to all have a little bit of compassion for that. Okay. Anything else to say, Diana, today? 10:10. She's showing me herself writing. And I believe she probably did keep journals. She certainly was a great writer of letters. But she's showing me journaling. She's showing me herself writing. And she's saying she found it very healing to write down her feelings, to get it out of herself. And she's saying she knows that many people watching this have probably heard that before, that it's a very good way to help yourself to write down your feelings if you can't express them. But she's saying, I would really encourage you to do that, to pick up a pen, to pick up some paper. And she's saying, do that rather than doing it online. It's more about the pen and the paper, going back to basics, and make it a ritual, make it part of a healing ceremony, that today I'm going to write about how I really feel. And get it out of my body. Okay, let the pen and the paper be your friend. Let the journal be your friend, and say what really needs to be said, including the unspeakable. You can put it down onto paper. And she's saying, and then you can burn it. Then you can throw it away. It doesn't need to be reread or redigested. She said, you know that's the way it works, but just get it out of the body. So she's showing me journaling and writing down feelings. Okay. Anything else, Diana, today? I want to say, on behalf of probably everybody watching, that we're so grateful for you for starting off this whole initiative, because without you, we wouldn't have the Heart Squad. It's as simple as that, because it wouldn't have come to me as an idea. And the tribe wouldn't have grown as much as it has. And it's so beautiful the way that it's evolved. So I want to thank you for that. And she's like sort of a bit bashful at that. She's just sort of saying, it's my pleasure. Okay, she's very anxious that she wants to make room for Audrey now. So I actually feel as though she wants to stay and be present when Audrey comes through. So I'm still seeing Diana sitting on the bench, white bench, and I'm just going to ask Archangel Metatron now to bring Audrey through if she's willing to. I mean, it's at Diana's invitation, and Diana's showing me that she says she's quite old-fashioned in the sense that she used to like to send a written invitation, and she's showing me like a beautiful piece of card with gold writing, embossed writing. And she said she used to enjoy sending out official invitations. She's saying it was all part of, I don't know, she just seemed to enjoy the elaborateness of it, but equally the old-fashioned manners of it, that you sent out a written invitation almost in the post to attend a party or attend something. So she said, I already have mailed Audrey about this. And so it's like a nod from her that, you know, to Metatron as well, that she knows and she's coming. And I'm seeing her now, seeing Audrey crossing the Rainbow Bridge. And she is stunningly beautiful, as we all know that she was. She's showing me herself as a slightly younger lady. I'm never very good with ages, maybe 30s, 40s, 30s maybe. And she's wearing a simple white dress. And she's got a tiny waist. She's got a tiny waist. She could be a ballerina. I don't know whether she ever loved dance. I'm being taken to ballet with her. She almost looks like one of those beautiful swans in Swan Lake. I'm being shown almost like the energy of Swan Lake. She's very like the swan. And she's wearing this very beautiful white fitted dress. It goes in at the waist. It's like almost like 1950s style dress, and then it comes out at the waist. So it's almost got like a petticoat underneath it. That's what it is. It's quite a starched dress. It's not loose and flowing. It's like quite a starched dress, a tight nipped in waist. Her hair is not up. Her hair is coiffured, old-fashioned word, but that's what I want to say, coiffured into place. It's like it's all off her face and it's up and it's smoothed down. I'm noticing her eyelashes, which were very beautiful. I'm noticing her lips. She's got like a matte lipstick on, It's like red muted lipstick, but not shiny vamp red, just like a very beautiful, she's very beautifully made up. She's very well presented. And she was, of course, a style icon. So she is coming across as the style icon. Of course, she was so much more than that, but she's very... I was about to say she's very dressed up for the occasion, but she's here now. And I want to say, I'm getting the impression, Audrey, that this isn't really dressing up, is it? It's part of who you were and are still. And she said, yes, it's part of who I was. She's saying I was also, though, just as comfortable wearing a pair of jeans and a shirt like Diana is wearing now. And she's sitting down on the bench with Diana, and it's quite funny because Diana's now sort of like, oh gosh, I feel underdressed now you're here in that beautiful dress. And they're just sort of laughing at each other. Audrey's like sort of tapping her on the shoulder like that, like don't be silly, in a very sort of affectionate way. I don't know an awful lot about you, Audrey, but the one thing I do know, because I noticed it last night, Diana had already told me that she wanted to bring Audrey Hepburn through, and at first I thought it was a little bit random, so I had a look, and it actually turns out that I believe you were cousins. Is that correct? She's saying, yes, we were cousins. Okay, so it's all very interlinked in terms of ancestry, but two very elegant ladies, but two very different types of elegance as well. You know, Diana very tall and willowy, and Audrey, I want to say sinewy, and I don't mean that in a horrible way. You know, I'm seeing her neck. Her neck is very defined, very sinewy, and her arms are very defined muscle, sinew. There's not a lot of body fat on her at all. Very, I was going to say slim, but I actually want to say thin. And I do believe, one thing I do remember now, Audrey, about you is that in terms of your eating, whether you had an issue with that, but I know that you talked about the fact that in the war, there was like a memory left over from the war, whether it was your parents or grandparents, almost like a starvation type energy, not having enough food. And I think she struggled to eat full, healthy meals in life. She's showing me herself a bit like a bird that pecked at food. And it's quite interesting that they're both sitting there together, because in a way, they are two women that both had issues with their eating, but didn't allow it to define them in terms of who they were. It was just something that was in the background and something that they battled. And I do feel that any young, well, not saying, don't know why I'm saying young, any girls, any women, any young men, any men of any age, of any race that have a problem with eating, dysfunctional patterns with eating, it's as though both Audrey and Diana are like this team. They feel like a team that are there to call on to help with that. Okay. Okay, let's go back to Audrey for one moment. So she's still showing me herself a bit like this little bird, nightingale. For some reason, I'm seeing nightingale, blackbird. Bird energy is very strongly around her. I think she used to like to feed the birds. She certainly likes to feed the birds now. She's saying there are birds in heaven. She's saying there are birds in heaven. She's saying the bird is an interesting animal because the bird is one of the longest standing animals to have been on planet Earth. And she's saying it's also true of what you might call heaven. She's saying when the world was created, when creation happened, she's saying all realms were created, and she's showing me that the bird, being the long-standing member of planet Earth, has also always been the long-standing member of the spirit world as well. She's saying because it is literally just like different dimensions and different rooms, and it's as though everything was created. When she's saying, when I say around the same time, she's not necessarily talking about the Big Bang. She's talking about time in a way that we just can't can't comprehend. She says it goes back so long ago. But the bird is a messenger and is an animal that has been in both realms, as above, so below, heaven and earth, and she's got a strong connection with the bird, okay, with birds generally, okay, and she is bird-like, I have to say, as well. Very, very beautiful lady. Okay, so Audrey, thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting Diana's invitation. She's saying, how could I resist? She's saying she always enjoyed, she's saying there were parts of her life where she enjoyed mixing with society, okay? And she's showing me parties, I want to say cocktail parties. She's showing me an era where, you know, the long cigarette with the holder, the whole culture about elegance, grace, good manners come through very strongly with her. Good manners, culture, cultured people. She liked to be around cultured people, people who were good debaters. She's saying, I liked a good debate, philosophical, intellectual pursuits. None of the sort of, you know, gossip. She wasn't into that. So she's showing me herself. I would describe the energy as quite highbrow. Okay, that's a word that would fit here. Quite highbrow energy, intellectual, charismatic, enigmatic, cultured, sophisticated. She's saying, you do flatter me. A woman of many talents. Okay, so where do we start, Audrey? There's so much about you, the humanitarian, the film star, the style icon. On 1010, an introduction to you. Thank you for being here. What would you like to talk about today? She's saying, why don't you draw a card like you did for Diana? Okay, so I'm going to draw a card for Audrey like I did Diana. Let me just put my glasses back on. She's saying she quite likes the imagery on these cards. They're quite artistic. They have cultural references. She liked art. She's saying, I loved art. I loved architecture. It's just like culture seeping through her blood. You know, that's what it feels like. Not that she has blood anymore because she's spirit. It's just a term. Okay, let's have a card for Audrey. Let's have one card for Audrey just to start the conversation off. You're happy to talk about whatever's on the card, are you, Audrey? She's saying, yes, sure, okay. The Princess of Hearts. The Princess of Hearts, okay. Isn't that lovely? And on the bottom of the deck, we've got the Ace of Hearts. Well, Diana was the Queen of Hearts. So she's coming through as the Princess of Hearts. And look at that. The Princess of Hearts is reading what I want. That was almost like the letter, the invitation I could see that Diana was sending. So Diana is saying, you are just as much a queen as I am, as every woman is. Okay, so anyway, she's coming through as the Princess of Hearts. There's an aspect with her whereby she doesn't seem to fully, I don't think she fully appreciated maybe the impact that she had when she was alive. It's quite Audrey to place herself as the princess rather than the queen, whereas she really was the queen. She was queen in terms of her field. You know, she's one of the biggest icons of Hollywood ever. But there's this thing with her about not wanting to pull rank, okay, not wanting to pull rank, wanting to feel as though she was one of the, I wanted to say the common man, the common people. So she's linking very much to her humanitarian work here as well. I'm wanting to say that that's also her reading letters of invitation that she got to go off and help in many different parts of the world. So this is like a nod to her humanitarian work. And she's saying, I had a contract. she's saying, I had many different contracts in life. I had a contract to come in and be the Hollywood glamour queen. I had a contract to come in also and do the humanitarian work, which was particularly the latter part of her life where she really devoted her attention. And she said, I used to get many, many requests for help. And she's saying these requests for help, these letters, symbolically still come in. And she's saying, very much like JFK was talking yesterday, I did a channeling on JFK and John Lennon, the two Johns together. They were talking about almost like this council that exists in the higher planes, of which JFK is on it, Nelson Mandela is on it, Martin Luther King is on it, and they are working to try and bring energies of peace to troubled parts of the world. She's saying there's also a council of women. She's saying men can sit on it too. She's saying it just seems to attract more females at this moment in time, but any person can be on it. It isn't something where you've got to be a woman, but I'm being shown women. I'm being shown very powerful women. I'm being shown Emily Pankhurst, who was a UK suffragette who fought for the vote for women. I'm being shown that. I'm being shown Audrey. I'm being shown Diana. Who else am I being shown? Nobody at the moment. I'm not being shown anybody else at the moment. I'm sure there are plenty others. She's just not revealing them. And she's talking about... look at that. That almost looks like a suffragette. That's how they used to... that's how suffragettes used... I don't know. I've just got an image in my head of Emily Pankhurst. They had hats like that in those days. So it seems to be a council of feminine energy, let's just put it that way. And of course, men can embody feminine energy that is working just as hard as the other council that I was shown yesterday with regard to the masculine energy, okay? And this council of feminine energy are responding to cries for help from the earth, and Audrey is part of that. She's taking me to Africa. I think she used to do a lot of work in Africa, so she's showing me Africa. She's showing me pictures of malnourished African babies and children, okay? She's saying everybody has seen those images, and she's saying so many people don't want to see the images anymore. So many people want to just turn away from it. And she's saying, I want to keep the eyes of the world open to what is happening out there. And she cares very, very deeply about that. And I'm seeing her with, in fact, I'm seeing both of them now. I'm seeing Diana. Diana's shown me that picture of herself in, I think it was it Angola? It was towards the end of her life where she was helping, she was raising awareness of clearing mines. And she was there was a little black girl, and I think she only had one leg. And there's a picture of Diana. Diana showed me that image. I'm also seeing a picture of Diana holding a black baby. It's quite an iconic photograph. I can't remember where it's from, and I can see the gaze that Diana's got for this beautiful black baby. And now I'm seeing an image. Audrey's showing me a picture of her holding a black child. And it's to do with Africa. It's to do with Africa. It's to do with the cries of Africa. It's to do with, because she's saying the cries of Africa are the cries of man. It's mankind crying. And not enough people are wanting to hear the cries. So she's saying, I'm still passionate about that, and very happy to be able to talk about that. Please do what you can when you are alive. She says people don't realise the difference that they can make just by doing one thing, just by donating something, by offering help, by giving some support to somebody, even if it's not you that's the person that's going maybe to the place where there is the pain or the suffering, you supporting the people that do that. She's showing me images of people driving truckloads of aid into countries, and she's saying you may never be the one that drives the truck in, but you can be the person that helps put something onto the truck. And it's not necessarily money, she's saying. It's to do with clothing. It's to do with basic needs. So, and she's showing me the UN. She's showing me the UN, and she's showing me the Red Cross. She's showing me the symbol of the Red Cross. She's saying there are good people that work within both organisations. And she's saying, again, if we can get behind the good people in those organisations, it will help immeasurably. She says people do not appreciate when they are alive the difference that they can make when they just do one thing. And she's saying take that now down into your communities, the homeless person on the street, the person in your street who's in pain, who is in loss. Every single person can make a difference. She's saying it's only when you get here that you realise the sum actions of what you've done in one life. And she's saying even people that feel they've done very little, you have done so much, and we thank you. Keep doing it. Keep giving. Okay. I also think, changing subject completely, Audrey was a bit of a romantic. I'm also now looking at this and I'm feeling that's like a love letter, you know? It's almost like that old-fashioned thing about receiving a love letter from somebody where they tell you how wonderful you are, you know, or how lovely you are, or how beautiful your eyes are, or something like that. And she's saying, I used to quite like that. She liked the old-fashioned, you know, wining and dining, and the elegance of it all. She's saying there's so much of that has been lost. She's saying you need to bring that back. There's nothing wrong with old-fashioned chivalry and etiquette. She's saying, from both parties. There's nothing wrong with expressing your femininity or your masculinity. It's nice to be a girl. It's nice to be a woman. It's lovely to be a man. It's lovely to be male. She's saying embrace who you are, you know, and treat each other with respect and compassion. And I'm wanting to do this, you know. It's like she's taking me to posture, of which my posture is terrible, Audrey, I have to say. And she's saying, no, come on, you've got to correct that, especially as I'm tall. So she's saying, especially if you're tall, you know, you need to hold yourself properly. You need to, it's to do with how you carry yourself is how you often feel. Are you sort of, again, JFK said this yesterday, Audrey. He brought through the fact that people were sort of like shuffling. They were not wanting to look up. So she's continuing part of what he's been saying. It's like she's saying, stand up, you know. It's like posture, very, very important. She's taking me to the spine, and you know, she's saying, how can, you know, I've heard these mentions of light body, because it's not necessarily her language, but she's around a lot of the Heart Squad who talk in this way. She said, I've heard, you know, this talk of light body. She's saying, how can you light up anybody, i.e. your body, unless you look after it, unless your posture is good, unless you are aligned, you know? You need to be aligned to spirit. She's also very particular with her speech. Her speech is very beautiful. It's not just being articulate, it's being well spoken. It's about choosing your words carefully and sometimes not saying what is on the tip of your tongue, okay? She's saying don't always say what's on the tip of your tongue. Sometimes what's on the tip of the tongue is poison. Sometimes what's on the tip of the tongue, you just need to digest back yourself and deal with it. Don't allow poison to come out of your mouth. Be very guarded in how you speak and when you speak, and understand the impact that words can have. Language is a beautiful thing, she's saying. Language is a beautiful thing. Language is to be applauded. Language is to be preserved. She doesn't feel like she's into this sort of dumbing down of language in any way. You know, she's taking me to like the classical languages as well, classical literature. She's saying, you know, she's saying one thing that can help our ability to speak and our language is, she's saying, reread the old masters, you know, reread the classics. She's saying what happens with that is that not only do you pick up vocabulary, which is very beautiful, but you catch the energy of that age. you catch the energy of the age where maybe Shakespeare wrote, where he was a wordsmith. She's saying, become a wordsmith. You become a wordsmith in your own life. I'm not sure she's terribly approving of like social media, or approving maybe is too strong a word, but it's just a bit of an anathema. She understands its impact and that it can be a source for good in terms of, I want to say, campaigning. But in terms of how people are abusing it, and I'm always wanting to say, she's like saying, wasting your life sometimes, wasting your life. You know, it's like, instead of just watching anything, open up a book, open up a classic, dive into that. Education is so vitally important. Don't lose the great classics and foundation stones of your culture. She's saying culture around the world is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. You know, whether you are in Iran, whether you are in India, whether you are in France, whether you are in the she's not saying anything else other than that, or Australia. It's like she's saying culture is amazing. She's saying dive into that, rediscover your own culture and that of other countries, and she's saying that will blow your mind. Blow your mind. I feel like she's one of these people that once she starts getting going, once she gets a steam around her, it's like she really likes to talk. But she does choose her words very carefully. You know, she's quite, I wanted to almost say, I hope it's okay to say this, I don't want to be rude, but it's like, you've got opinions, haven't you, Audrey? She says, yes, I can be quite opinionated in some ways. But it's because I really passionately care about what I want to be talking about. I also feel that she was probably quite a perfectionist, quite a hard taskmaster. She's now taken me to her films, and she's saying, you know, they didn't just happen. She's saying, you know, there was a lot of dedication to the craft. I took it very seriously. You know, I enjoyed my time making films, and the characters that I met, she said, were so fascinating. I'm wanting to say, I don't know whether she filmed with him, I don't even know if it's the era, I wanted to say Dirk Bogarde. Is that his name? Sorry, it's going back a little bit, I wasn't even born. So she's showing me the old black and white films. We're going back quite a long time. Clark Gable, she's saying. She's talking about, she's almost like wanting to remind us of the black and white stars of a golden age, she says, of a golden age where you didn't have to swear. We didn't have to swear to make your point. You didn't have to be graphic to make your point. She's talking about modern Hollywood films. You didn't have to strip off to get people to watch. She said it's become very coarse. So she's saying a bit like diving into classical literature. She's saying, dive back into some of those wonderful golden movies. She's saying they're not olden. She says they're golden. I'm also wanting to go way, way back to Charlie Chaplin, okay? So it's like she's showing me aspects of the masculine and the feminine, I'm sure, but for some reason she's talking about the masculine more now. The great masculine screen icons of past. And it's almost as though she's saying the best of that. You can really see the respect with which women were treated. And she's saying, and then almost like the energy starts to go down. It's almost like she's showing me a roller coaster with regard to Hollywood. She's saying at the start there were these amazing male role models within film. And remember, she is of her time, so for her it resonates. And then she's shown me this dip where, for some reason, something seemed to happen to the masculine psyche with regard to the film industry, and it became, it started to become more abusive to women. And she says, I'm almost wanting to say that's when I got out, is what I'm wanting to say. Okay, that's when I got out. So I'm just wondering if that's gone a bit dark, my picture. I haven't got my light on, so I hope you can still see me. I'm just saying, wasn't that funny? I was just saying it all went a bit dark, and I'm now thinking it's gone very dark in the room. Okay, we'll just go with it because it's probably symbolic. It's like that's when I got out. It all went very dark. Favours, she's saying, favours to get into film, and the abuse of men. But she's saying some women also allowed themselves to be abused. And by that, she's talking about women who took roles for favours given to men. Okay, so she's saying it's like she almost wants for us to realise that some women did that almost gladly to get themselves into a position where they went onto the golden screen. And she said then it wasn't a golden screen anymore. Then it became a dirty screen. It became tainted with that. And how are you feeling now about Hollywood? I mean, she's just shaking her head. It's just like almost like she can't go there. It's almost like she can't go there. It's got so, your words, Audrey, what's it got? It's got so, evil. She's saying, call it evil. It's got so evil. What is pumped out, what is manufactured, how it's made, why it's made. She's saying, but that's a discussion for another day, probably, Amanda. But she's saying, again, culpability. Again, this is her opinionated side come out. Again, culpability. It's all very well for people to denounce Hollywood and what it churns out. But look at the cinemas. People are going to see it. So stop the supply. Stop the supply. Stop going and watching these films. Stop wanting to watch violence and graphic sex and things that taint consciousness in that way. Bring back the era of elegance and purity. I'm noticing my voice is different with her because she's very clipped in her speech. And she is quite opinionated. But it's like, take some responsibility. It's no point just talking about the fact that Hollywood is evil and corrupt if you then go and watch what they are producing. Is there? She's got a point, guys. She's got a point. Let's welcome in a second golden age for film. Let's create beauty again. Let's bring back that energy of upliftment and wonderment and getting lost in a story and a character in a good way, in a heightened way. And as I said that, my door's just blown open. I think that's a nod to the fact, let's open a doorway here to allow that eventuality in. Okay. Let me just put my glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. I think I'm going to bring them both back together now. I'm just going to close my door. Hold on. And that's because the new energy's in town, okay? The new energy's in town. All right, let's go back now to Diana and Audrey both sitting on that bench together. She's saying that they want to see the roses. The roses. It's like they both of them represent this beautiful bunch of roses, which are of different colours. So Diana would be this very pale pink rose. This would be Diana's energy to me, okay? Or she's just saying she likes the pale pink. Diana likes the pale pink rose. And Audrey would be And yes, sorry, Audrey's rose would be this one. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that elegant? Put them together. Diana and Audrey. Put two powerful women together, working together. How special is that? Okay. I'm noting that there are other coloured roses in here that we haven't referenced. So that's a nod to some other female members of the Heart Squad that are wanting to come through. And indeed, I've already, Aretha Franklin came through for George Michael. So I want a rose for Aretha. She wants this one. Beautiful orange. That one's for Aretha. Okay. There might be more female souls to come through, I don't know, but those are the ones that I've done so far, as of today, the 8th. Okay, let's just allow Audrey and Diana then to go back, and we thank them very much for their time today. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Diana, and thank you, Audrey. And it's really funny, they both spoke in unison and they both said, our pleasure. It's almost like they're speaking as one. And it's like they said, our pleasure, and then they're laughing amongst themselves. And then they're just walking back together. It's really lovely. They're walking back together hand in hand across the Rainbow Bridge. And I actually do feel there's a nod to ballet with both of them. It's almost as though I'm wanting to say, it feels like they're off to the ballet. That's what it feels like. It feels like they're off to watch ballet, or they're off to dance. There's a connection with dance with both of them as well. The love of dance. Okay, so just allowing them to go back. Okay. And then just putting your feet down firmly into the earth, connecting into Gaia. Excuse me. Spraying the earth elemental. Knowing that spirit is only ever in the next room. It really is. Just a little breath away, that's all it is. And how blessed are we that they're coming back to help and support us and just be with us at this time. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. So in this series of videos that I'm putting out on the 10th of October, so far we've got John Lennon and JFK, George Michael and Aretha Franklin, Princess Diana and Audrey Hepburn, and there's somebody else coming through. I'm not quite sure who yet. I don't know. I'll do that tomorrow. Much love. See you all soon. Bye. Ooh, didn't turn it off.